breathe of a pressure of tension.
April 22nd, a day that will forever remain etched in India's memory. One of the deadliest terror attacks in the valley in decades. When 3 terrorists infiltrated the picturesque tourist zone of mini Switzerland in Pahalgam. What followed was carnage. 25 tourists and a pony rider were brutally gunned down. Innocent lives cut short in cold blood. Times now was there, first, fastest and fearless.
Eight months after Pahalgam terror attack, we are back in Pahalgam, exactly on Pahalgam bicycle track. From this very spot, we extensively reported about Pahalgam terror attack. And standing here today, it's hard to believe that how this place felt different at that point in time and on that evening. It was full of cries, chaos and confusion. And here on this track, in fact, number of tourists, young and old, men and women, were rushing back towards Pahalgam, trying to save their lives. This year on 22nd of April in the evening, most painful and tragic visuals were unfolding at Government Civil Hospital in Pahalgam. 8 months after this brutal terror attack, we're back in Pahalgam, exactly inside the premises of Government Civil Hospital, Pahalgam. And I remember reporting from this area on that day. In fact, most painful and horrific or in fact tragic visuals and scenes were unfolding inside this hospital, outside this hospital. While the tourists who lost their lives in this brutal terror attack were brought here, equally injured tourists were in fact being brought here. They were treated here inside this hospital.
As the nation mourned, the terror outfit, the Resistance Front, an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Toiba, claimed responsibility. Pain and grief across the nation was soon replaced by demand for justice and answers. With Prime Minister Narendra Modi on a crucial bilateral visit to Saudi Arabia, the Union Home Minister took charge.
The Home Ministry was taking every single minute update from Pahalgam. The Prime Minister also made a call to the Home Minister regarding taking stock of the situation. Around evening, a high-level meeting was called at this location, which is the residence of Home Minister Amit Shah, where the DG rank officers joined the meeting along with Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, Manoj Sinha. The other officers also joined the meeting through video conferencing, and a strategy was decided to tackle with this situation.
Grief soon gave way to anger. And anger turned into a nationwide demand for justice. On April 24th, from Bihar, after paying tribute to the victims, Prime Minister Modi delivered a stern warning. The perpetrators will be identified, tracked and punished.
I say to the whole world, India will identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backers. India's spirit will never be broken by terrorism. अब आतंकियों की बची खुची जमीन को भी मिट्टी में मिलाने का समय आ गया है.
2 days after Pahalgam attack, Prime Minister addressed a rally in Bihar. He could have cancelled it, but he decided to use this opportunity to speak to the world and also to send a message across to Pakistan. He clearly stated that those who perpetrated this attack are going to be identified, tracked and punished, and not just them but their backers as well.
Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri announced a series of hard-hitting decisions. The Indus Water Treaty was placed in abeyance.
The Indus Waters Treaty of 1960 will be held in abeyance with immediate effect until Pakistan credibly and irrevocably abjures its support for cross-border terrorism.
Once the intentions were clear, it was time to strategize how to respond to the terrorists and their handlers. The meetings started happening in North and South Bloc. And then came the most crucial meeting, the Cabinet Committee on Security, which ended about 3 hours. And then happened that historic briefing by the Foreign Secretary of India, Vikram Misri, where it was announced that a treaty between India and Pakistan that survived 1965, 1971, Kargil, Parliament attack, Pulwama attack, but could not survive the Pahalgam attack. India put the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance.
Pakistani nationals were asked to leave India by 1st of May. And the strength of the Pakistan High Commission in New Delhi was significantly reduced.
After the Pahalgam terrorist attack, many Pakistani nationals returned back to their country via Atari Wagha border in Punjab. While India upped the diplomatic ante, we provided minute-by-minute update on that developing situation here. Meanwhile, a series of high-level meetings were held in the capital, chaired by the Prime Minister and attended by the Home Minister, the Raksha Mantri, the NSA and Chief of all the armed forces.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh assured the nation that India would respond decisively.
देशवासियों को आश्वस्त करता हूं, घटना के मद्देनजर भारत सरकार वो हर कदम उठाएगी जो जरूरी और उपयुक्त होगा.
Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh assured of a loud and clear response to Pahalgam terror strike. He assured the country that there is going to be action against those who perpetrated this crime and also to the actors behind the scene. Raksha Mantri also said there is zero tolerance policy as far as terrorism is concerned. And in fact, he spoke at length, and apart from Prime Minister's residence, 7 LKM, this is the place where we saw CDS and 3 service chiefs meeting, strategizing the retribution that India took against Pakistan for the terrorist strike on Indian soil in Pahalgam.
India has twice responded with force after Pakistan-sponsored terrorists launched attacks on Indian soil. In 2016, following the martyrdom of 19 Indian soldiers in Uri, India carried out precision surgical strikes across the line of control. 3 years later, after a suicide bomber killed 40 CRPF personnel in Pulwama, the Indian Air Force launched airstrikes in Balakot, targeting terror camps run by the Jaish-e-Mohammed. This time was no different.
India has been dealing with different kind of terror attack by the Pakistani ISI over the period of many years. But this time, things were different because the target were innocent tourists who had come to the Bison Valley in Pahalgam. What was very alarming that initially, if you talk about the Uri attack, that was done by the Jaish-e-Mohammed. But this time, the resistance group, which is an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Taiba, claimed responsibility and then deleted the claim from the social media platform.
On the intervening night of May 6th and 7th, India launched Operation SINDOOR, its deadliest strike on Pakistan since the 1971 war.
2 weeks after Pahalgam terror attack, India avenged the killing of 26 innocents by hitting and targeting 9 terror bases in Pakistan and POK. Yes, this operation was carried out in the middle of night and named Operation SINDOOR. We were the first ones, in fact the only national media network to report from Uri sector near the line of control. In fact, on 6th of May, we had traveled to Uri sector. We had arrived in this particular area where I am right now standing. And in the middle of night, we heard loud explosions.
Things were settling down in Baisadan, so I came back to Srinagar, and post midnight, loud explosions were heard in the valley. It was quite clear that something major has happened, and when I got it confirmed, we got to know that it was Operation SINDOOR, which has been majorly successful, and our forces have managed to destroy all the terror targets which were there in Pakistan. Later on, the government also came out and they took responsibility of this particular major operation.
After back-to-back meetings in PMO, in South Block, in North Block, came the night of May 6th and 7th. At about 1:27, my phone buzzed with a confirmation from a source that India has hit back. Initially, the information was very sketchy. Within 5 minutes, we were on air, and in about 20 minutes from then, we had an official release from Government of India. India had struck the terror launch pads and deep terror launch pads of Muridke and Bahawalpur as well.
The name carried deep symbolism. The victims in Pahalgam were singled out by religion, forced to recite the kalama, and executed, leaving countless women widowed. India watched as Times Now reported every development of the operation in real time. Operation SINDOOR delivered massive blows. Over 100 terrorists were eliminated, including 14 members of Masood Azhar's family. After India's hard-hitting strike successfully exposed top Pakistani army generals attending the funeral of the dead terrorists, Pakistan retaliated by targeting the civilian population in Jammu and Kashmir. Tragically, 16 people lost their lives in Poonch. Pakistan attempted coordinated attacks across 26 locations in Punjab, Gujarat, Rajasthan and Jammu, but every single attempt was foiled by Indian forces. India then launched high-intensity strikes on 13 Pakistani air bases, rendering 7 unusable and damaging nearly 20% of Pakistan's air infrastructure.
Indian Armed Forces ने पाकिस्तान को बहुत भारी नुकसान पहुंचाया. उनके मिलिट्री इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर्स को, चाहे वो लैंड एसेट्स हो या फिर उनके एयर एसेट्स. यही नहीं, इंडियन आर्म फोर्सेस ने पाकिस्तान की एयरफील्ड्स स्कर्दू, जकोबाबाद, सरगोदा और बुलारी को बहुत नुकसान पहुंचाया. इसके अलावा पाकिस्तान के एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम, रडार सिस्टम, उनको भी एयर स्पेस में अनटेनेबल किया.
While India's retaliation was strictly against the terror launch pads and the terrorists, Pakistan retaliated by killing Indian civilians. 16 of Indian civilians were killed in Poonch in Pakistan's retaliation. India was left with no other choice but to hit Pakistan strategically. India, the next night, ensured that Pakistan is sent a strong message. Their air defense systems in Lahore were destroyed. 13 of their air bases were attacked, resulting in 20% of the air capabilities being destroyed by India in the offensives.
India has left with no other option but to retaliate, targeting deep strategic assets deep within Pakistan. Reports indicate Indian forces struck as far as Rawalpindi and successfully neutralized air defense system in Lahore.
On the morning of May 10th, India declared that any future terror attack would be treated as an act of war. By afternoon, Pakistan blinked. The Pakistani DGMO reached out to India seeking a ceasefire.
The
Director General of Military Operations of Pakistan called the Director General of Military Operations of India at 15:35 hours earlier this afternoon. It was agreed between them that both sides would stop all firing and military action on land and in the air and sea with effect from 1700 hours Indian Standard Time today.
The 3 days of offensive between May 7th and May 10th had made it clear for Pakistanis that things are going south for them. And then came the May 10th warning from India that any act of terror would be an act of war. By afternoon, this message was loud and clear and resonating within the establishments in Pakistan. The Director General for Military Operations of Pakistan dialed his Indian counterpart, Lieutenant General Ghai, here in South Block, the Defence Ministry. At about 12 p.m. on 10th May, Pakistan requested to cease hostilities on international borders as well as LOC.
Three months later, on July 28th, acting on precise intelligence, the Indian Army launched Operation Mahadev, eliminating 3 key terrorists behind the Pahalgam massacre.
"96 days after Pahalgam terror attack, security forces in Jammu and Kashmir finally managed to trap and kill all 3 Pakistani Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists who were responsible for killing 25 tourists and a local resident in Baisaran Valley of Pahalgam. This operation was conducted by security force in the Srinagar outskirts in a locality called Malnar, which is part of Dachigam National Park. And we reported this whole of operation from this place, which is in fact part of Dachigam National Park. And the area where this operation was conducted by the security forces is in the foothill of Mahadev mountain peak. That's why this operation was named as Operation Mahadev.
The following day, Home Minister Amit Shah informed the Parliament that the mission was a success.
ऑपरेशन महादेव में सुलेमान उर्फे फैजल जट, अफगान और जिब्रान 3 आतंकवादी सेना, सीआरपीएफ और जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस के संयुक्त अभियान में ऑपरेशन महादेव में मारे गए.
Times Now and its team of reporters, including Priyank, who relentlessly covered every facet of this Islamist terror attack, still vividly recall what they saw.
पहलगाम आतंकी हमले के बाद जो आतंक विरोधी अभियान शुरू किया गया है वो लगातार जारी है. जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस के जो स्पेशल ऑपरेशन ग्रुप के जवान हैं वो यहाँ पर इस इलाके में लगातार सर्च ऑपरेशन अंजाम दे रही है. सीआरपीएफ के जवान भी इस ऑपरेशन में जुड़े हैं.
इस वक्त हमारी मौजूदगी जम्मू कश्मीर में है. जम्मू कश्मीर में अनंतनाग जाने वाले रास्ते पर करीब 25 किलोमीटर पहले हैं और जो टूरिस्ट पहलगाम में थे उनको वहां से निकाला जा रहा है.
We are going to show you the exclusive visuals how these rivers are being scanned by the forces. Drone is keeping the surveillance on the suspected movement. Pahalgam butchers were not too far away from Pahalgam. They were hiding in Dachigam, which is very close to the main city of Srinagar. They were hiding in the forest area of Dachigam when security operators got to know about their information, them hiding in this location. On 18th, this massive operation was launched by security forces. Later to that, on Monday morning, their location was tracked down and finally they have been eliminated. The main person was Musa, who was trained in Pakistan, and he was a part of multiple attacks which have been carried out at several other locations here in the valley. What is very alarming is this location, the encounter location being very close to the main city of Srinagar. As we zoom in, as the sun is setting down, you can see the blinking light from this Srinagar valley, which is clearly establishing that another tragedy has been averted.
After JEM camps were hit, Masood Azhar vowed revenge. intelligence agencies feared strikes in India's hinterland. Acting swiftly, Jammu and Kashmir police busted a white-collar terror module involving doctors. On November 10th, 2,900 kilograms of explosives were seized in Faridabad. But the mastermind, Dr. Umar Nabi, escaped. Later that evening, a suicide bombing took place outside the Red Fort.
One of the very misunderstood concept is concept of what has been labeled as suicide bombing. It is martyrdom operations, and it is being known in Islam.
A blast in a moving car in the heart of the national capital near Red Fort completely shocked the nation. We at times now were the first to reach the spot and bring you the ground reality. What we saw was shocking and saddening. We spoke to eyewitnesses as well. We saw that there was debris scattered all across the roads. We saw blood with our own eyes. In fact, we saw body parts lying there as well.
Lok Nayak Hospital, the hospital which is barely 2 kilometers away from the Red Fort blast site and where the victims of the blast were brought in right after. As soon as the team of Times Now, as soon as we reached here, we spoke to the first responders, the ambulance drivers who were shell-shocked. They said that they were able to hear the blast from this very hospital as they were on their way there. And once there, they had to collect the bodies, the sight there, nothing less of gory. By the end of the night, the hospital authorities told us how 8 bodies, 8 people were confirmed brought dead, with 20 others injured, many of whom critically so.
The National Investigation Agency has since arrested 8 terrorists, dismantling a joint JEM Ansar Ghazwatul Hind module. Yet agencies warn the operation is far from over. Through every phase, terror, retaliation, diplomacy and pursuit of justice, Times Now remained on the ground, bringing the nation facts with courage and clarity.